I saw an interesting video the other day about. Have you heard about Jerusalem syndrome?
Jerusalem syndrome. No, tell me.
Yeah, you haven't heard of it. Me neither, to be honest. I hadn't heard of it. I watched the video and then I googled about it. And Jerusalem syndrome refers to some kind of a mental breakdown, effectively, where an otherwise stable person, usually from the Western culture, let's say, who is highly religious and has never been to Jerusalem before, after spending their whole lives believing in Christianity and being quite devout, they manage to either through life circumstances or financial circumstances to actually secure a trip to Jerusalem.
Mm.
They get to Jerusalem and they realize that it's nothing special. It's just a normal city of today's time with
Mm.
traffic jams, people, noise, pollution, all the craziness of a big city, effectively. And then suddenly something inside them snaps and they go back to their hotel rooms. They start tearing up the bed sheets and they come out on the street with just, you know, uh, wrapping around the bed sheet to themselves. And they start preaching to people, go back to your old lives, go back to simpler lives, believing in Christ, stop everything you're doing. And they completely lose the plot. And
Right.
it's
Is
apparently
this
it's
a
a
common thing?
fairly common thing. Apparently, dozens of cases on a yearly basis, like of people visiting and snapping because they believe they're going to find some kind of holy place, some kind of like imaginary place that they've built it up in their minds because of reading all the old scriptures and stuff. And they get there and they see just a normal place and they completely lose the plot. And apparently, it's like a highly documented phenomenon. And people
But
have like,
why don't they just lose their faith rather than just double down on
I
it?
don't know. That's an interesting question. I would say the same. I would say why no, I don't know. I would say
And
it's maybe
do you
because
know if
God.
there's like from certain countries, people are more likely to have this phenomenon?
Yeah. The guy I watched on the video that was talking about this kind of Jerusalem syndrome was effectively the way he described it was almost like he was describing evangelical Christians from the US,
Yeah, like
and without
that was
wanting to
sort of
say
what I
that
was
that
imagining when I asked the question, to be
yeah.
honest. But,
That's
like,
how
but yeah, like I guess we don't know for sure if
yeah, he wasn't giving
that's right.
statistics, and I don't want to put that group on the spot, because I can imagine anyone from another country who's very Christian and religious could have the same kind of response to this all. But as you said, it's actually quite interesting that they, instead of their faith crumbling, they double down and they go, "No, this is the Holy Land. Behave as if it's the Holy Land, and kind of go back to simpler times and stop whatever you're doing. Go back to it." And they just lose the plot and they just go completely mental.
Yeah, I guess it could
And
be like, I guess imagining the psychology, it's like you get upset when a sacred place is
yeah,
made into is desacralized in the way of like traffic jams and all that. So yeah,
how
maybe
dare
that's
you
why.
wait on the traffic light where Jesus walked?
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit strange. Like there is, I think for yeah, it's quite understandable. People would think that there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I just found it very interesting that, as you said, the people would put a place that they've read about in such a pedestal that when they get there, like in Jerusalem, they get completely overwhelmed by how different it is than what they imagine. And
Mm.
maybe it's like, and apparently there's a few factors that contribute to that, to getting this Jerusalem syndrome, where it's a combination of factors such as people being jet lagged from their flight, people not having slept, people getting tired, and then after all this, they expect to have some kind of, you know, revelation while they're there, or they hope for a revelation, and then they instead kind of, their psyche kind of buckles under all this kind of pressure.
Mm.
um, but I don't know, to be honest. I just found it a very interesting situation and of how your brain can completely become overwhelmed by something that you've kind of hyped up so much.
Yeah. Do you think there's any correlates in your own life or anything else you observe which is similar to that?
I think it's a to me it kind of reminded me about how people these days you see on people talk about the Instagram photos and stuff of amazing places that look magical and stuff because they have
Mm,
filters and they look like as if
yeah.
they're idyllic and they look almost like paradise, and you get there and there is like 5 million people taking photos, polluting the area, like noise and everything. You get there and it's like, oh my god, that is nothing like the photo of someone that took a photo at a random day.
Yeah, there's
With,
these Instagram videos which actually show what the expectation was, and then they actually go there
yeah,
and they film it, and it's like completely like
exactly that.
rubbish.
And I imagine I might snap if I go to one. I know, that's why I wouldn't go to one of these places, one of
Yeah,
these viral places, because I think I might snap myself if I thought I was going to paradise and
yeah,
then I
because in a way,
went
our
there.
holiday, the conception people have holidays is an escape from a routine, escape from work.
Exactly.
So in a way, it's a religious nature, and it's like I'm going to go to this place I've seen on Instagram, this paradise,
Yeah, exactly.
and then you're disappointed that this is not paradise, and
And then you're disappointed. Exactly. Because not only it's not paradise, it's like a hell of people screaming, shouting, kids screaming,
yeah,
people
maybe
like
hell is just
littering.
maybe hell is just where there's like you're around loads of other people who thought they were trying to find heaven.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. This is exactly what it remind me of, to be honest. And I think I would. That's why I wouldn't go to any of these viral, Instagram places, because there's just so many nice places that look like heaven or like beautiful, natural beauty, scenery, and they can be quiet and they can be um unpolluted by the crowds. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Just because they haven't been plastered all over, TikTok or Instagram or whatnot. And that's where I would go instead. Because
Yeah,
then,
yeah, but also like I guess it's good not to be too cynical of some places because one place that jumps to mind is Santorini, which is maybe the most Instagram place ever. I don't know,
yeah, I.
but it's
Mm,
certainly up there. And I went there and I was fairly impressed. There was quite a lot of crowds, but actually, especially when we went to see the sunset, and there was
mm,
loads of crowds everywhere. It sort of added to the experience of almost awe, I guess.
mm.
And so, yeah, I guess it's like one of these truths which says there is really no truth. There's no rule. Like sometimes these places will be actually quite good, and sometimes they won't be. And it's probably the expectation which is a problem.
I suppose, yeah, but you could still visit Santorini at a time that is not peak tourist season, for example, and still get a similar experience to the one you've described, minus pushing yourself through tight corridors to get through every little place that you're trying to visit, and being like almost sardine compact with like hundreds of other people. So, you know, you
Yeah,
could still
well,
have that experience.
some
Unless
people.
you're
There's
arguing
obviously
that being sardined with other people adds to that experience. If you're
well, that's
arguing
what
for
I was
that,
going to say. Is like I respect for some people that does help. For instance, I went to the Kumbh Mela a few months ago, which is the biggest gathering of humans on the planet. I think it was about 10 million people on the day I went.
Jesus
So
Christ.
certainly sardines on that day. And if it was just like 5 people bathing in the waters, it wouldn't seem that special. But because
That's
of the
true.
cumulative effect of so many people caring about one thing, psychological or not, like it's that does have the power to move you more, even if you're not a religious person, to
Mm,
some extent, than more than just 5 people bothered
mm.
to turn up. So, but yeah, like obviously, all things being equal, ceteris paribus, then you probably don't want a huge crowd when you're seeing a nice natural sight.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the exemption that confirms the rule in a way, like, all in all. But I understand what you're saying. It's definitely, obviously, when you have a gathering like that, any sort of true gathering or a celebration is
Mm,
enhanced by the presence of more people. This
yeah.
is this is undeniable, I would think. It's like you can't have a festival with 3 people, you know?
Yeah, and
It's just
actually, yeah, like I went to a festival last year,
yeah.
and the fact that we were sardined and that you
Yeah.
couldn't get out
It kind of
meant you just had
enhanced.
to just party in that moment, and you
Mm,
just had your little space and you made the
mm,
most of that, which was quite spiritual in a way. In a way, I guess you could call it spiritual. And in a way, it was just having fun.
mm,
Um, and so yeah, like yeah, I guess it depends on the situation, doesn't it? Like yeah, sometimes you want a nice walk in nature with no one around, but if you're
mm.
going to a touristy place, you're not going to get that.
No, but I would argue, as you said, like there is something profound in sharing an experience with a big crowd of people, being part of like a universal, huge crowd experience like that. What you're saying
Yeah.
about the festival, for example, which is
Mm.
different to just being a tourist somewhere, I would say. So being in a crowd like that and sharing that kind of the music, the vibe, this kind of not compilation, like combination of experiences with other people kind of amplifies, I think, the experience tremendously, I would
Yeah,
say.
I think studies on ore have confirmed that. So
Mm,
yeah, that does seem to be the case. But then also like studies on laws suggest like yeah, seeing yourself as a small part of a cosmos, which actually might be easier if you were alone in nature.
mm,
So like I guess yeah, different situations are likely to create awe. And yeah, not necessarily one is right or wrong. It's just different ones produce
yeah, no, and
awe in different
obviously
ways.
different things work for different people. Some people hate being like not necessarily close to other people, but hate being sardine with other people. And they would
Yeah.
find that their personal hell. And some people love that because they feel more connected to people. So not every person feels the same way in every circumstance. Different people feel more connected to others, like more extroverted people would want to be around a crowd of people, and people who are more introverted, I think, would prefer to be alone in nature sometimes. So,
Well, yeah, I guess you could make the introvert extrovert distinction, but and that's probably is true to an extent. But I would say introverts probably have a lot to learn, not in the way of learning as in academic, but I guess I'm slightly introverted, and yeah, like I found festival experiences, yeah, quite um, eye-opening in a way of giving a different experience to life, or yeah, showing you a different not dimension, but just different way of being,
mm,
and that was quite cool. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily make the introvert extrovert yeah distinction, but that probably is true of what they would think they would prefer at least.
so do you think introverted people should put themselves more out there and try and push themselves to have extroverted experiences, maybe for their
Occasionally,
own
at least.
good? Mm?
Occasionally, yeah, maybe not make a habit of it, but and maybe don't push yourself beyond what you think is comfortable, but always like being at the edge of your comfort zone and not too far past it, but going on the edge allows you to expand and see more, and
Mm,
then you might find your comfort zone keeps expanding, and what you weren't comfortable with before, you actually are now comfortable with. So yeah, like
mm,
that's like a psychological phenomenon, isn't it? That you people who are scared of something like lifts, you would see how close you can get to the lift, or
mm.
the idea of lifts, and you stop there for a bit, get
Exposure
comfortable with that,
therapy.
yeah, and then you just keep going, trying to deepen your connection with a lift, as to put it in a bad way,
Mm,
but yeah, like keep going into that fear, and but in a way which is manageable, and then finding out that actually you're okay with it.
mm. Well, in my case, I would say that I'm definitely on the more introverted side. That's why I was asking you about if you think introverted people should, try and take or like put themselves out there more. Um, but it would be my personal hell being like sardine in big events. So I tend to avoid them.
Yeah,
But that is just
that's
personal
probably why a lot of
preference.
people just take drugs at festivals, because I think a lot of people are quite introverted, and
You think, and to
so
overcome this kind of
like
feeling.
yeah, certain drugs, obviously. not recommending anything, but
Mm.
they can
Mm-hmm. Alter your
make you feel
perception.
more of yeah, I don't know, okay with that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, sometimes that's the only way people sort of break through certain barriers. Obviously, if you do it regularly, it's unhelpful. It can be.
Mm. Yeah. 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 For sure. For sure. Um. But yeah. Uh,
And alcohol
and alcohol. Yeah. I
that
have
helps.
my little glass here as well. Mm. We're talking about movies earlier, and it
Mm.
reminded me, because we're talking about the stories. We always like to talk about stories that resonate people across time and space and things like that. Have you watched the movie Coco?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Oh, you need to watch it. It's the Disney movie Coco. It is the movie about the movie Coco is about an aspiring musician, Miguel, confronted with his family's ancestral ban on music, enters the land of the dead to find his great great grandfather, a legendary singer.
Mm.
So it's effectively the movie talks to you. It just shows you how this young boy goes to the land of the dead to find his great great grandfather, and he meets there all the ghosts of all the people who are on who have passed away. And
Mm.
in the end, it's a very emotional story because it kind of emphasizes the importance of our connection to our ancestors and how we live our life here and how we honor the people we've lost and what it means to maintain those connections and things. But the interesting part about that I read recently was that when Disney and Pixar released this movie, they believed that they would only be getting revenue from Western countries in Europe and the rest of the world, but not China specifically, because China has a very strict um, policy on what kind of content they show there, because of it has to align with the political and cultural beliefs of the country. And in China, apparently, they have very strict rules on showing depictions of ghosts and the dead.
Right.
So they believe that obviously this is not like you couldn't modify part of the movie and take out the ghosts and stuff. The whole movie
Mm.
was in, the land of the dead where there were ghosts. So
Yeah.
they believe there would be no way around that, and they would get and it would be prohibited from being shown in China. But apparently, when it was time for it to be evaluated, because there's like a special evaluation panel there that kind of evaluates any kind of movie and media that come from the West. Everyone was so moved in this panel, and they believe that movie emphasizes so much and so well the importance of ancestors and the this kind of aspect of culture that also aligns very well with what uh, Chinese culture believes. They actually allowed the whole movie unaltered to play there as well.
Yeah,
And
well, I think Disney does have at least some Disney movies have the power to move anyone, however strict their dogma. I think that is
precisely.
the power of Disney because it speaks to when you see truth in the way of like it resonates because it's psychologically true because of wherever you live in the world you go through these experiences and you sort of know that resonates and so yeah, Disney movies on the whole are pretty good at capturing that, and therefore they are very good at transcending dogma, and in a way they represent some sort of perennial philosophy because
That's what,
yeah,
yeah.
like they really do break down the barriers because whether you're Christian or whatever, you sort of resonate with it, you get it, and that's not to say like there's universal truth in terms of like laws of physics. It's not physics, but it's I don't know, there's universal truth maybe in this sense of
A
some sort of
lot.
psychological, like I don't know what it is, but psychological something which resonates with all humans. Like pretty much Disney, I think pretty much resonates with everyone. Maybe you
Mm,
have to find the right Disney movie, like the right packaging to get across that message. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find at least a child who would not like at least one Disney movie.
or even an adult, that doesn't like at least
I think
one
so. Yeah, yeah.
one Disney movie. I think there is so much, especially. I'm not saying that the newer ones aren't good, but even especially the older Disney movies that we grew up with, they all have transcendent messages and meanings that resonated with people all across the world and children all across the different countries and cultures and even times, because they're still relevant today and they were still relevant 30 years ago and they're still
Mm.
relevant.
Like
And
in a way,
there's,
you could say Disney is the most universal language there is. Maybe you say music is, but like to go with the argument, like Disney is something which, at least in the last 30 years, a bulk of the world's population has grown up with, and maybe more so than anything else. And so, in a way, if anything has a chance of uniting us, it is the messages in Disney. But the trouble is, people just see Disney as childish or kids'
and I
movies.
would say the problem isn't that. I think people also see Disney of today a little bit maybe polluted by political ideation
Well,
and
yeah, that is the biggest problem, and I think Disney has to be really careful about that because, yeah, although they see it as like important to create equal rights and stuff, and yeah,
mm,
it completely is, but you're doing it at the danger of diluting perhaps an even more important message, which is these sort of universal principles which transcend space, time, race, gender, whatever, and because they're the principles that make a great story great. Um, and if you overshadow that with political ideology of the time,
mm,
then you really risk diluting that message and maybe put people off Disney movies because they associate Disney movies with the ones which come out in the last few years. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't push woke ideology, not in the way of what maybe that they're doing it today, but like a lot of Disney movies are quite like in 30 years ago and stuff. They're quite sort of progressive in some
yeah,
ways, and I think.
inclusive
But
and
then I think when you do it in the right way, people don't really care because they sort of know that that's fine. But the trouble is when you sort of over push it, then people realize
mm,
and it jars with people. So yeah, it's a really yeah, a line which probably Disney haven't been getting completely right, and probably from mostly good motives, but a lot of mistakes happen from good motives.
the road to hell is paved with good intention, isn't it? With good intentions. But yeah, that's the problem. I think a lot of people find that a lot of movies today feel almost like they've been developed by a committee, you know,
Mm,
making sure that all the boxes are ticked, all the little details are being, manufactured and kind of placed, you know, by design where they're meant to be. And that takes
mm,
away from, I think, the story and the message very often. And even if the message is good, it still takes away by having this kind of artificial, I'd say, very often, because this is what the problem is. It feels artificial, I think, to people. When you're trying to modify something to make it more inclusive of today's issues and problems and stuff, I think it just creates that, it pollutes it or dilutes it, as you said. It dilutes the message with things that are much more um, relevant to today and might not be relevant tomorrow, for example, maybe.
mm.
And it also breaks the immersion from the story and the message, I think, as well. And I think this is
Yeah.
not only with Disney.
Mm,
I think we see it with a lot of pieces of media these days. I see it with video games, for example, where you have video games being engineered in a way to be inclusive, which is a good thing. It's good to be inclusive. It's good to kind of um, include marginalized communities or marginalized sections of the population in games to be more reflective of the population as well.
yeah.
But at the same time, it cannot be at the expense of like the story's common sense and the general message of this story. because it feels engineered, it feels
Yeah,
fake, it
yeah.
feels
I think you put it well. Like the general message of a story, it like has to come first. Like the story
yeah,
only has
exactly.
power if it is the top thing in the hierarchy,
Yeah.
and then from there you can add on other stuff as long as you don't violate the first rule, which is the story. But yeah, like I think going back to the point of representation being good, like I think in the last 20 years and increasingly so, the number of movies and TV shows and social media which includes people with shortened arms like me has really
Mm,
helped make it seem
mm,
um, more normal in some way. But just like rather than just something which is a rarity, it's like you see like presenters and
mm,
comedians and whatever with differences, and that really does help. And like I think that's like obviously when you bring the race into it, people get all very left wing, right wing. They get very like a big
divides
debate, but
people
like it might be easier to sort of see. People might see more objectively if they think of it
in the context of.
in the context of something like disability
Mm,
or physical difference, and then seeing what would be sensible. Like obviously, if you have everyone in your movie who's got like
it's
limb differences,
unrealistic.
it's going to be
It's
weird.
it, but yeah, because
And like
it's
it's
weird
going to be
because it
obvious people are making
feels,
a point.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it feels unrealistic and
Whereas you just
artificially
have
engineered.
someone, if you just have like someone like in proportion to the number of people in the population,
Hmm.
occasionally having a limb difference. You don't need to have every single movie with someone with a limb difference, but that can be helpful, I would say, to include that. And so you're effectively included. You're including people from various different various different like disability, race, gender, whatever. You're representing the population in what I guess Young would
Hmm.
call the mythology, of which is the guise it's taking on today is maybe Disney movies.
Hmm.
And so it's important that everyone feels represented in the
Hmm.
mythology. Um, I think that's not many people would argue it's right to do so. Maybe you could say you don't want to change someone's characteristics if they were written a certain way or they mean something to the story. But I'm not so much against changing certain things if does help make people feel included. But
Hmm.
it needs to probably be careful in terms of not overdoing it.
Yeah, and still preserving the message and making it not feel forced and artificially inserted. I think that's what a
Yeah,
big
I think and
problem
it
is.
actually backfires the more you force a
Yeah,
message down, and then you actually
like
sort of make people. I don't want to say racist, but you know, it makes people want to react against it. Like, if you a force will get an equal force in the opposite direction.
hmm.
Um,
Like I
and
feel Disney has gone so politically correct now that it's gone over to the other side of erasing the inclusivity. Because, for example, it reminds me of the recent Snow White movie, the live action one,
hmm,
where instead of having real people like the seven dwarfs were actually CGI. They're not even real actors anymore.
I
They
believe
didn't
that was
even pay real
controversial
people.
because it took away acting role from people who have autism.
Exactly.
So
So exactly,
yeah.
they even took away the acting role. So we went completely opposite now. It's like in our strive to be politically correct.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just feels like it's backwards now in a way.
Yeah, and I guess no, Snow White's obviously a very controversial example, but like Snow White, going back to my previous point, would be like a character you probably wouldn't want to change the race of because she's known as Snow White, and so it's entwined into the story for better or worse. But that doesn't mean you couldn't change the race of the Little Mermaid. Um,
Hmm?
like obviously that was controversial,
It was very controversial then. Yeah, when
maybe it's
they.
because people have grown up with that conception of a Little Mermaid, and so it
Hmm.
sort of violates your previous conception. As if you read a book and you picture a character a certain way, you don't expect
Uh,
him to
I did watch
be different
the
when you
yeah, I
watch it.
did watch the live action of the Little Mermaid. And I thought it was really
Mm.
good actually, to be honest. I you know I thought
Okay. Yeah.
it was
I haven't
good.
watched either of them actually.
I didn't watch the new Snow White live action, but I did watch the Little Mermaid, and I thought it was good. It was alright. Like
Okay.
it didn't take away
Mm.
anything from me, but like I don't know. As I said, I didn't used to watch Little Mermaid growing up, so I so
Yeah, yeah.
maybe it didn't affect me as much. I don't know,
Right. Yeah, that could be it.
but yeah, I didn't have a very solid vision of my mind. I mean, we all know the Disney version, the animated version of Little Mermaid, but like it didn't. I
Yeah,
just
like
thought
there
everything
is
was
a
good.
question of like a lot of left wingers would say, "Oh, that's racism." If you didn't like the, so I'm pretty sure I haven't watched it. The mermaid was not white.
No,
Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to get back there. So yeah, like a lot of people would just be very quick to play the racism card and say that is racism, but and maybe some of it is, but it could also be that part of it is is violating your preconceptions because of what you've read or watched in the
Mm,
past of that
mm,
character, and it jars with that. So it's to call someone racist because of that might be right, but it might also be not because it might it might just be a natural reaction of if you're changing any trait of a character, if like you change the hair color of a character,
mm.
like that jars with people who picture the character a certain way. But the trouble is, if you call someone racist, then you sort of then make them subconsciously maybe think they are racist, and that might bring racism out. So
It
um,
does, and it radicalizes people in a way. You call someone racist enough, I think it pushes them more
yeah,
to
because
feel like they are in that way.
who have they got as companions other than maybe other racists? Because they're the only ones who don't sort of point the finger and brandish them. They're
Yeah,
the ones who
exactly.
sort of welcome them in, saying, "Oh yeah, like we'll accept you if no one else does. Like we'll
Mm.
accept your views." But actually, that just radicalizes people. Like and people on the whole, I don't think are really naturally want to be radicalized. They just want belonging.
No, yeah, I completely agree. This conversation brings to mind um, the casting choice for Snape in the new
Oh
Harry
yeah.
Potter
Mm.
uh,
Oh
series
yeah,
that will be
I've
coming
been
out.
reading all these articles about how controversial like that is, and then also all the J.K. Rowling thing, and like it's a whole mess it seems. But it seems like it might actually be a good series. Obviously you don't know until you see it, but
Mm.
when this first got announced, new Harry Potter, I thought, oh, they're just milking it, they're trying to make money, but they seem to have brought out a good cast, and
Mm.
HBO could do a decent job, so it
Yeah.
could work out all right.
Yeah, I think the problem is that Snape as a character is quite well described in the book, from my understanding. I mean, I've read the books myself when I was younger, but the only way I remember Snape was from the old movies.
Yeah,
So I cannot say I have a depiction of Snape from when I was reading the books as a kid. But people say the argument was that people made was that the Snape was described as a pale man with like this crooked nose a little bit and stuff and
mm. Well,
long black hair.
I guess you
And
could make the case that even people who aren't white could be considered pale in terms of if someone had a lack of iron, they
there
would,
you go.
whatever race, you would be considered pale in some
Uh,
way. But it's an easy thing to rile up people to say, "Oh, look at the books. Snape was decided it was supposed to be this way," but actually, it's just an easy way to get people angry about something, and people love getting angry about
People love to be
their
outraged
favorite
these days.
fiction
Yeah.
being violated. Like, and that's always been the case, or at least for the last 100 years. It's and whenever there's been an adaptation of a book, people just like to get angry. If you're a really avid book reader, you often are not completely pleased with the adaptation.
Mm, yeah. And I think, as you said, people are very protective of the ideas they have about things. So they as you said, they have characters who in their mind are a certain way. They are very protective of these characters. And obviously Harry Potter has a huge fan
Mm.
base of people who grew up with it, our generation
Yeah,
included. So
and
it's
also like we're prejudging this actor
I know
who
without
plays
even
Snape
yeah. Well, you
because
don't know how it's gonna be exactly.
like at least withhold judgment until you
Yeah,
watch it
I agree. I
because you
agree.
might be pleasantly surprised as long as you if you drop that judgment before and then you go in and then just actually see what it's like objectively or subjectively, then and you might be pleasantly surprised. Like I'm sure there's loads of cases of that happening.
Mm.
But and yeah, like if you want to judge afterwards, then that's your call. But that's probably not necessarily character description. It's probably how the actor portrayed them, because yeah, actors of any physical description, if they're a good actor, they can
Mm.
win you over, because it's people really care about the emotion and the deeper stuff rather than the physical stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree. I just think people hate to see this kind of. It almost feels like this token altered race character
Yeah,
that
well, that's why it has
keeps
to not
being
be done.
inserted into
Yeah, it has to
all
not
the
be
media that
seen
we have these
as
days.
that.
I think.
You should be open to everyone. I would say, if I was like casting people, of like if you were casting for Snape and you sort of ready is supposed to be pale, I'd open the casting to anyone. And if
and
they genuinely do a really good job in the audition, then cast them. But don't just cast them because you need an extra person of color in the production.
and I would imagine and I would hope that they would did that, and I do
I,
hope that they
I
done
think
that.
that actually
Yeah,
is more
yeah,
common than you
yeah.
think, and a lot of people get angry about, oh, there's looks like there's too many people of color in
Mhm.
different productions. But yeah, I reckon yeah, TV studios often get it right, but they do sometimes, it seems, just try and have token people of
Yeah,
different
that's
physical descriptions.
and and I think people are getting fed up with this, and I think we're going to see a lot of pushback if it's not if it keeps happening at the expense of like story and good acting and so forth and so on and so forth. We'll have to wait and see, as you said, withhold judgment until everything is out, until we see all the series be out and watching it without judgment, without any preconceptions and stuff. Because as you said, it's not good to be getting preconceived ideas of how things are going to be because we don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, just have to say. I had something else that I want to tell you about actually. Oh,
Go on.
irrelevant to the previous discussion. AI news.
Oh yeah, okay.
I
We always
watched
discuss AI.
back from movies to AI now.
Mm.
I saw a video about an AI guided robot performed on its own, completely automated, guided by AI, no people controlling it, a gallbladder removal operation, completely on its own.
That's impressive.
And I was
That
like,
that shows precision of AI working with physical robots, which is pretty much
we're done.
that is the only thing which needs to be solved to have like sci-fi basically be here.
We're done.
Uh,
if
well,
surgeons if surgeons are done, what's left for the rest of us?
Well, yeah, we always thought that like white collar jobs, or at least more skilled jobs, more educated people will survive, and it's the lower class who will get their jobs taken. But actually, it's much more efficient to take the jobs of the people who are you having to pay a lot of money. I think how much money the NHS could save. It's like investing in solar panels. Like over 5 years, you'll get your money back. So if you're investing in a robot, you're going to get we're going to get way more bang for the buck with the NHS. And even if people don't like AI replacing humans, if
Yeah,
it's the NHS which needs saving,
yeah.
then a lot of people in the UK will be kind of on board with it. And so if we accept AI taking jobs in that scenario, then are we of any right to say we shouldn't have AI take jobs in other scenarios? And that's going to be tricky.
There is some caveats with this robot performing using a AI guided surgical robot performing this gallbladder removal surgery. The caveats were that it was performed on a pig
Oh, okay.
and the pig was dead. But
Well,
yeah, wait. But
humans are
it
bigger, and also when they are under anesthetic, you're not moving anywhere, so it's like dead.
I know. I'm just saying that I saw clips of the video where it was doing all these micro cuts and all these micro procedures and cutting and snipping and removing, and it was like crazy, you know. And obviously, for now, it wasn't done on an actual human patient, but we're so close. It's actually really scary. About, as I said, if the surgeons are on the verge of going within the next few years,
Yeah.
we're done. Like we need universal basic income yesterday, I think, because because we're going to be done.
Well, if he, in the case of the NHS, like if surgeons don't need to be employed anymore, then obviously that's sad for surgeons. But then it saves the NHS a lot of money, and then it by extension saves the state a lot of money. And so theoretically, that and other scenarios like it could help pay for universal basic income.
I would hope. Otherwise, we need what I think has been the best idea for getting that, because people are saying, how are we going to pay? How are we going to pay for the universal basic income? How are we going to fund it? And the best argument I've heard so far is that all the companies who use AI and robots will have to have an AI/robot tax given to them.
But how do you really manage that? Because everyone in every industry, teaching or whatever, they're using AI to some extent, even if the company doesn't know it. Because you might use it to
Yeah,
just
but no,
research something
I
or
think this
whatever.
is if the company is substituting the workers for AI and
But how do
robots.
you really tell that? Because your
Well, if a
current
company,
workers might use AI without the company knowing and become more efficient than another worker, and therefore the company works out we need less workers because our workers are gradually becoming more efficient, and so AI sort of does replace humans, even if it's not obvious.
I suppose, yeah, I suppose in the short term, this is kind of how it will happen. Instead of having 100 people, you'll be employing 50, and then 20, and then 10 people, maybe,
It's going to
probably.
happen to pretty much every company. So if you're saying all companies which have AI or robots have to pay this tax, I guess all companies are just going to have to pay the AI tax, and therefore it won't be called the AI tax. It's just another tax.
Maybe, but I'm just saying this is kind of how people are, kind of how I read is a way to kind of start funding this sort of universal basic income that
It could be just a problem in the short term,
will
because
need.
if you really believe in AI, it could well mean that our economy is just so prosperous, and this is the base case for AI. It's so prosperous that
But yeah, the problem that are
we
for
just have unlimited money effectively, and so
people.
it's easy to give everyone 10 grand or 20 grand.
Yeah, but people are afraid of the in between states. The in between states could allow loads of people to die if they all start starving, if we all start
Yeah,
starving
it's
because we
whether
don't have
it's a
jobs.
gradual thing, which it gives us time to
You
give that
know?
basic income and work out how to do it, or it's like yeah,
If we
it's
suddenly all don't have
sudden.
jobs and can't buy even groceries, like, it's what are we gonna do? And no one is giving any money to anyone until the AI kind of becomes advanced enough that we all get loads of money. I don't know. I'm just saying. I know people are afraid of that transition. I think,
Mhm.
and I think it's warranted to be afraid of, because I think it's not going to be a smooth transition for a lot of people in a lot of industries. So don't know. And there is already a sentiment, like an anti, like benefits, like sentiment in this country, even, of people kind of getting welfare and benefits and support from the government and the state.
Mm.
So what's going to happen with people as people start losing high paid jobs, and if the public sentiment is still that these people shouldn't be helped, what are we going to do?
Well, I think it might be a good thing, and it might change the public sentiment in terms of thinking of like benefits as not something which you have to be feel guilty of receiving. Obviously, those people abuse it, but with AI, like it's going to be like if surgeons are getting it, it will suddenly destigmatize benefits. I think for most people, um, but yeah, like yeah, our perceptions may have to change quite quickly, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. Certainly hope so, because
But yeah, like to play devil's advocate, there are problems for obviously it costs the state, but there are problems with people who are known as benefit scroungers, to use the derogatory term.
mm,
Um, like it's not to say like yeah, there's nothing wrong with benefit scrounging. Like for some people, it will be fine for them, and they'll maybe thrive and have a happy life just living off benefits. But some people removed from work and just in the home all day won't find a very happy life. Um,
mm,
and so yeah, work gives a lot of people purpose.
mm.
for better or worse. We complain a lot about it, but in a way, it forces us out of the house when we might have otherwise felt, oh, I'll just stay under the covers
Mm,
today, and it forces us into a position where we make a difference, even if it's a small cog in the difference. We are making a difference. We are spending most of our time doing something which contributes, and when most people are removed from that, that's going to cause a problem. But yeah, I think I spoke on the previous podcast recently about, yeah, this philosopher who I forgot the name of last time, and I've
got the
forgotten
name
the name
this
of
time.
this time. Uh, yeah, he's like a non-dual guy. He's very into non-dualism, but he worked in AI, I think, and that sort of field. And he said, yeah, like philosophy, art, so creativity, and interhuman relationships are going to be the things which replace meaning in the
Mm,
vacuum that is left by a lot of people not having to work.
mm.
Um, and so, but like, how many people are going to necessarily take that up? Because it's much more comfortable, perhaps, at least it feels more comfortable in the short term. And the short term is always forever if you have that mindset. It feels more comfortable to just stay online, to stay inside and watch stuff on
Yeah, and
YouTube
get
or
dumber.
TikTok
And get
and get
dumber
dumber.
because AI is doing all the thought, all the thinking for you. People are
And you
saying already
you train your brain with neuroplasticity, and then you really stunt yourself because it
there
becomes
is
harder and
no
harder to keep up.
neuroplasticity anymore. The data is starting to show that people who are using AI are having less brain activity now. It actually reduces thinking actively on people because people just outsource all of their thinking on just copying and pasting prompts to AI and not even thinking about anything anymore. Like even from simple conversations to any kind of thinking. Effectively, they just go to ChatGPT. Let me
Mm.
ask ChatGPT. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to type it out and just ask ChatGPT, and no thinking
Yeah,
involved anymore. No
and so
critical think.
we become like robots because really we're just the servants of robots. Even though we think we are using ChatGPT as our servant, in a way we are just following the algorithm, what the algorithm has dictated. Maybe it's because it's been written by loads of bloggers. We're just following the pattern of advice, which is often good advice, but
Mm,
we're following the pattern of advice of like how to have this sort of difficult conversation, for instance. We're following that pattern from what AI has told us, which is really, in a way, it's the what loads of bloggers have written about, or loads of writers have written about this problem, how to approach it, and like AI often comes up with good solutions, but it is a bit, maybe on the face of it, worrying that we are just following a pattern that is dictated by AI, and we become in that way more robotic. And when I say robotic, more homogenous. We're becoming, because ChatGPT or whatever gives pretty similar responses, I would imagine, to
mm,
certain similar problems. Often they're very nuanced responses, and that's good. That's probably an improvement in some ways, but it is a little bit worrying that, yeah, maybe many humans will be acting out a playbook um, of one sort of universal way of acting in any given situation.
mm. And I was saying that it's people using it in not even like from children, like using it for school and like writing essays and whatnot, to people using it for even like relationships and how to kind of reply to other text messages from their partners and stuff like that, and how to kind of flirt with people and kind of how to interact with people and do job interviews. Even like they have examples of people being on a job interview and the interviewer asks a question, and they have like a window of like the AI answering the question and giving them the prompt, so they're literally on autopilot being told what to say by AI at all times. It's
Yeah, and that's only going to become worse once we get AI glasses or
yeah,
neurochips, which when we can't actually see whether the person we're
and
interacting with
and
is is being genuine in that situation, because the better AI gets,
I
it
know
should become
you won't be able to tell.
something which is just augments all of our interactions, if you want it to be.
Yeah, this was my thought as well. Like I was thinking, kind of how we now also have predictive text, right? Like in a few years, I'm sure AI will be good enough to make you a full-on prompt instantly of what you would say based on your own kind of personalized tone of
Mm.
way of speaking and texting. And you'd be like, you start typing your response, and then you'd see the prompt from the AI, which is personalized to how you would have replied based on how well AI knows you. And you'd be like, oh, that's what I was actually typing. Let me just click that. And then
Yeah.
you answer, your answer is completely AI made. And then your friend who's also reading that reply has the same thing from
Yeah.
their side
And then
when they
you go
reply
back
back to
and forth.
you. And you just
Yeah.
go back and forth, and it's not you chatting, it's just the
Well,
AI
that does sort of
chatting.
reveal, like, at least for the superficiality often of online communication, at least I find. And
Hmm.
like, part of me finds that quite tempting, to be honest. Like, just to bypass all the wasted time spent on like constructing text. No, you shouldn't be so careful with
In the name
how
of
you.
efficiency, then.
Yeah, because like some things I just can't be really bothered with, because I know like sending a text is really not that important. So I would rather just bypass that. And same with small talk. To be
Yeah,
honest, like,
but imagine.
to be honest, like, but um, maybe that would just make us more efficient of getting to deep talk, and then we are really good at that naturally, and we maybe you could say that will be replaced by AI, but I would say, yeah, if you're having like a deep, meaningful conversation about philosophy or psychology or just real human life and how your life is going, you don't want AI to be filling in the gaps of everything.
Yeah,
You
that's what I'm
want
saying.
to.
Imagine you sending me a philosophical kind of like you wrote me a message telling me about a philosophical concept, and then the AI summarizes it. John is expressing philosophical concerns about the meaning of life. Like that doesn't that doesn't that doesn't translate a paragraph of you analyzing and talking about, you know, the nuances, let's say, of an example, like the way that I would have read it. It's just a very like it's kind of taking away a lot of fundamental things there.
Yeah.
So I
But
find
also,
it.
you can't take this stuff away from people once it's
No,
out there,
I'm not
because
saying
and if
there's
you're
no way. Yeah,
in a non-liberal democracy, but then that's
I
an argument
completely
maybe
agree.
that,
This is like you either go with it or you're left behind. Now we're not in a place where
yeah,
this is
a lot of
there's no
people
breaks.
are despairing that we're going into this sort of technological dystopia where everything is fake, but actually it could be that all the things which get replaced by fakeness are actually the things which didn't really matter in the first place, and we actually end up not dedicating our thought to a lot of useless stuff like texting or Excel spreadsheets, and we just, or even brain surgery or whatever, heart surgery, and we just actually come back to the things which maybe matter more, which you could say are those things which I mentioned earlier from that philosopher, I forget his name, uh, from, yeah, philosophy,
Art,
but philosophy, art, and interpersonal
philosophy.
relationship,
Yeah.
which are all actually really interconnected as one. But yeah, like philosophy, not in just some sort of abstract terms, but actually like, yeah, tapping into a state of feeling, rather than just all these thoughts and social media and news and whatever just distracting us all the time, and theories distracting us. Philosophy often seems just theories, but actually, like, I went to university and studied loads of theories for when I studied philosophy and history, but I when I first came across the word
Mm.
philosophy, I thought it would be the art of living, and I
Mm.
think that's what a lot of people think. The philosophy is the art of living, and that's not a theory, or it can be a theory, but in if in truth, I think it, like, a lot of people who resonate with philosophy as art of living don't see it as a theory; they see it as some sort of like intuitive way of being, which is natural, which we're often distracted about.
Yeah, you see, my fear with this is that you say that we're gonna end up with philosophy, art, and interpersonal relationships. My fear is that we won't end up with that, though, is that we will end up going back to Disney movies again. We will end up with Wally, the Disney Wally movie. We're going to be Wally, like the people in Wally, where we're just going to be literally fat and dumb. That's my fear because we're not using our brain. AI is doing everything for us, and we're not doing nothing.
Yeah, yeah, and it will get harder to get out of that
And it will get so hard to
quagmire.
stop. Exactly. We'll have
Um,
no way out of this, and that is my fear.
yes. Well, it will certainly happen to some people. Obviously,
Hopefully,
like
not all of
you
us.
can't if you're a Christian, that might be a good analogy, and you're seeing rightly or wrongly the whole world sort of sinking into like what you see as like the Antichrist, or the Antichrist way of living. Um, like you can't really save them. Like if you're a Christian, you just go up to someone who's really doesn't believe in Christianity. You can't really go and
Mm-hmm.
convince them in any way. They
Mm-hmm.
have to really convince themselves. And the same, I think that acts as an analogy is, yeah, like people would say, oh, God's grace is readily given like to anyone who wants it. But in a way, like many philosophers say, it's also up to you. Like
Mm.
you have to almost, yeah, like have a drive to let go of the stuff which is distraction,
So, 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 so
theory,
personal,
thinking.
yeah. So personal accountability to not end up like Wally. Then, so we're not Wally. Then sitting in
Yeah,
those
well, it's going to be
chairs
a
and
really liberal society, well, unless we go into somewhere like China.
off. Yeah.
It's going to be a super liberal society where we have unlimited resources and unlimited choice, and
Mm.
that means that we can go to the extremes of pleasure and yeah. There's a really good quote in it. I think it's Bhagavad Gita, which says, yeah, like the pleasure often feels like honey, but ends up being like yeah, something like bee stings or something harsh, and then
Mm.
so yeah, but that can also mean that we demonize pleasure, and that's also not
Well,
a
no.
very
Too much of
healthy attitude.
everything is bad. You know, too
Yeah,
much of
it's about
everything is
excess,
exactly
and
excess.
that's the problem. It's very, I think, especially in the modern world, maybe always we've just been very bad at living
Mm.
without rules, with nuance, and so we expect someone else because we expect maybe government or whatever or a family to give rules about how to live. When there are no rules, when all rules have been undermined, then we're very bad at like gauging how to actually live.
Mm.
And often things that transcend rules. Rules are very rough, yeah, cookie cutters, which don't really map onto to the nuance of individual situations. Like that's why like a lot of non-dualist philosophers will say things are not necessarily good or bad. Like lying is not necessarily good or bad. It depends on the situation. But yeah, a lot of people would like you to say, "Oh, lying's always bad,"
Bad.
or actually they might like people to say, or they might like they might like their favorite famous person to say, "Actually, yeah, I lie a lot," and that means that you can lie. And but really, they're both wrong. And so non like in a way, like non-dualist philosophy resonates with me, but not in the state of a theory of saying like everything is like one or there's no good or bad. It's just things are like more complicated, or at least they're not complicated. They're more nuanced, but that nuance you only get in the individual situation and that you're in, and you can only make the right decision most of the time if you are in a clear-headed state. So
Mm.
if you've got any sort of theories or ways of being or laws dictated by anyone else, then you'll struggle to actually make a good decision in that moment.
Mm. I think as people, we really struggled with existing in a gray space in the in betweens. We really struggle. People want to be in the right or the wrong, in the good or the bad, in the good versus evil, in the um, you know, in the certainty. They want to exist in the certainty. I think people. I think this is and I think it's in our culture as well that you should have a position somewhere. You cannot be in between. And I think this is often
Hmm.
a problem for a lot of people in a lot of aspects of our life, and you see that divides us
Yeah,
constantly.
because
This comes up again and again.
well, you could say like imagine if you said to your family or wrote in an article or whatever, you said, "Oh, I like this Mark Twain quote, which is the truth. I don't tell any lies because the truth is very is easier to remember. Well, you don't have to remember the truth, so well, why tell any lies? That's the easiest thing." I mucked up that quote, but um, yeah, like then when you write down a quote, and often quotes are great, but they often express something which is not like the full truth,
One
and
dimension,
so
yeah.
and so when you write that down or or say that to someone, you're subconsciously saying that you're going to live that way to
Mm,
yourself. And that means that you're living by words which, in a way, are imaginary.
mm,
Like they come out of the mind. They're not actually in reality. They try and describe reality, but they're
mm.
not reality itself. And so um, you commit
Actions
yourself.
are reality.
Well, actions become a reality, and they can come
Mm.
out of words, yes. But
But that's the thing. But usually, words don't know, very rarely translate to absolute realities. You know.
yeah, so in a way, it's very annoying because you can't really speak what you believe to other people because if you are like letting go of all beliefs that have been imposed on your conditioning, then if you speak as that you believe this or you think this is best, then you tie yourself to that conception because we don't like to be hypocrites. The worst thing to be is a hypocrite, like
Mm.
in our society, even worse than paedophilia, I would say,
Wow.
controversial. Because
That's
well, maybe not
yeah.
paedophilia, but like
Yeah.
for instance, yeah, like sleeping like with loads of young girls. Like if you're say like 40 and you're sleeping with loads of 18-year-olds, people would dislike someone who is hypocritical about that more than they would dislike someone who's really open about that, and especially as a guy, maybe that
Mm.
shows double standards. But like they see them as like a player or whatever, and like just someone who's really cool because they're just open about it. Whereas someone who proclaims to be against that and then sleeps with maybe just one underage girl once, or not underage, but maybe someone who was like young, like 18, they would be considered, yeah, like the devil's spawn, the worst person because they're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a hypocrite in a way.
No.
And so we have a fear of being called hypocritical because of something we said before, which might come back to haunt us. So in a way, we're controlled by trying to live up to what we've said in the past.
Well, this is a lot of the reason why I think a lot of people have turned their back on religion very often, because
Yeah,
people, religious people, like to always preach to other people about how they should live their lives, while they're never affected by the consequences of that preaching. You know, very often. Like for example, I'm just like giving an example. Like I can give an example to that I can think of. For example, people, Christian, like hardcore religious people, will say, "Oh, it's immoral and it's a sin to be homosexual." Let's say, and they'll say you should not engage in that, and you should probably stay alone for your whole life. And Christians will say that while they're happily married with their own partner and their family and everything else. So it's easy to say that and preach it when you have your own family and you're safe and everything else, while you're preaching to someone that should be alone forever, and just because God has placed this kind of imaginary trial for them to overcome in their lives, you know?
yeah,
So,
yeah. It is very easy
and I
when you
think
feel like
people
you've got
turn
everything to preach.
sorry, go on.
When you feel that you've got everything, which if you like, if you've got a relatively happy family life, then it can feel pretty good. Then yeah, like if you preach to people, then like who haven't got it all and maybe sorted out or whatever, when it come, yeah, yeah, obviously it's problematic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's like, and it's so, and that appears so hypocritical to me, for example. Like it's, and there's more examples like that all over, you know, where Christians will say, "Oh, don't do this, don't do that," and in many cases they will be doing that, just, you know, behind closed doors or whatever, you know, and they'll just be preaching to people, "Don't do this, don't
Mm.
do that," and
But often they
love
won't.
your. Hmm?
Yeah, often maybe will be, but often they won't be. But that's not often they're not doing it. Maybe because of they fear what they've said in the past, and they don't want to be incongruous with their
Hmm.
previous words. But then also banning yourself from doing something. I would. I haven't got the psychological research on this, but I would make a small bet that people who ban themselves from doing something are more likely to do it.
Oh yeah,
I
we've
found this.
seen this.
Yeah,
When
I
has
found this with
prohib-
chocolate. Like just on a simple level of when I say I shouldn't have stuff with sort of a certain amount of sugar in, like
Yeah.
above like 10% sugar or whatever. then I'm more likely to do it more often. Whereas if I'm just like laissez-faire about it and just, yeah, I can have sugar, then I'll just have it occasionally, and that's, maybe it's the same amount, maybe it's slightly more, maybe it's slightly less, but it doesn't really make that much difference to how much sugar you actually have. And so why were you putting yourself through all the stress? But the idea of something is good or bad then sort of changes your actions. And so it's not to say like things are not necessarily good or bad. Like health, I guess, suggests that, or health research suggests that sugar is not that good for you. But the idea of branding stuff as good or bad creates psychological
We crave
issues, I
it
guess.
more. Like it's
Yeah.
prohibition has never worked. From the recent history to the ancient history, you go back to ancient Greek mythology and stuff, and even the Bible with the forbidden fruit. Anything forbidden to us becomes more attractive. It's just human psychology. There's nothing that we
Mm.
crave more than what we are told we cannot have. It's just it's just human psychology. So it's, as you say, prohibiting something doesn't make people not want it. If anything, it makes them want it more, one way or another, and they will chase it and they will find it, no matter
Yeah.
how illegal you make it or how
Yeah.
hard to
If
find
God
it
in the
to make
Garden
it.
of Eden had just not said that's a forbidden fruit, then they would maybe just seen it as another fruit tree.
Like literally. Oh. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. That was that for me.
All right. Oh,
Oh,
got
you got a
Alexa
notification.
coming in.
Oh, Alexa's telling you. Maybe we've reached the end of the podcast.
Yeah, that's what Alexa was telling me.
Sponsored by Alexa. Yes, for today's episode.
Yeah, Alexa was listening into our podcast.
Exactly. Well, I
Oh,
heard it does listen now all the time. Uh,
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it listens all the time, I guess, because it's waiting for its name.
yeah,
But whether it relays all that information and that information stays permanently on Amazon servers, I'm not convinced.
training
Although
their new
I
AI
guess
models.
like my uneducated brain should suggest that at least it's a 20% possibility, and if it's a
Mm,
20% possibility of that happening, then that's not a good thing.
mm,
Um, so
yeah, maybe it's using all of the information to train the Amazon's AI model. You know,
have Amazon come out with an AI?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yet.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe they're just
Yeah.
waiting to
As I'm saying,
transcend all the competition, just dust
exactly.
off.
Using all these audio recordings from Alexa, they'll know exactly what we think and they'll know exactly what we want.
Yeah, and I think also they got the infrastructure with the Amazon Echoes where AI would be actually super useful. Like
Mm.
AI, like
Almost everyone has one.
Alexa, sorry Alexa, is pretty stupid at the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's not artificial intelligence. It's not really intelligent. It's just like Google search, isn't it? So yeah, like if they actually had AI, which I don't know why we haven't done it yet. If they had like ChatGPT
Mm.
integrated with Alexa,
Mm.
that would be like a 10x
That'd be
improvement.
for sure. For sure. It will happen. For sure. I'm sure it will
Yeah,
happen.
but I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
They're fine tuning it,
Maybe, yeah.
probably. Mm. uh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's it for today, I think. I don't know. I'm flat now.
Well, let's wrap it up there
Don't know
then.
if I have anything else. I don't know. I like to tell you about things I hear during the week and stuff, and things that
Yeah,
I
you always
find
seem to come
interesting.
across interesting stuff.
I come across all, yeah, my feed, my algorithm knows me very well, and kind of shows me all the stuff that I think are interesting, that like
And
I'm
so
gonna
our
like.
AI is not necessarily something which replaces human ingenuity or our humanness or our individuality, but it almost extends it, at least in the sense of the algorithm. Where you could argue it's problematic, but you could make the argument that actually it's because it's giving you more things that you would be interested in. So
Hmm.
it's creating like a bigger web of ideas related to what you're interested in. And so you have to be the person who's behind that to make it
You
have
have
any
to be like
significance.
like I've said before. I try to really curate my algorithm, like really quickly swipe against videos I don't like and follow through and fully watch videos that I even think are even half as interesting as I think they are. Try to watch them fully so that I get more of these videos. Just because I am conscious that if I don't, then I won't get more videos like this. I'm conscious as well that the algorithm knows how long I stay on its video, how fast I scroll from its video, and all that. So I try to the videos I'm interested in to keep watching them so that I get more videos like that every time.
It's interesting because that probably extends watch time, and so
Yeah,
that actually helps the social media
and the
companies.
creators, yeah, and the creators of these videos, of course. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I always get interesting stuff. Always find, and I save stuff that I find interesting as well for posterity. Yeah, um, yeah, I always find interesting stuff, and I'm gonna be telling you about them and discussing them with you because I always
Sounds
want to
good.
hear what your ideas are.
Because we'll have always have good content for the podcast.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.